Oh, Chris took a walk across the street so wide, tripped on nothing but his own damn stride. Policeman ran, thought he died on the spot, but Chris was just laughing, he laughs a lot. Oh, Chris, our cosmic clown, trips in the street, still wears the crown. From stargates wide to socks that don't match, your questionable choices a perfect batch. He cooks with love, but beware the plate. Last casserole sparked a CDC debate. Fusion cuisine, more like fusion bomb. Yet Joanna still feeds him with a smile so calm. Oh, Chris, our cosmic clown, trips in the street, still wears the crown. From stargates wide to socks that don't match, your questionable choices a perfect batch. He talks with aliens through portals aflame, but still forgets his own Wi-Fi name. Says, I channel the cosmos, the secrets I keep. Right after his 3-hour Taco Bell sleep. Raise your glass, let the rafters shake. Chris is the king of every mistake. Yeah, we love him more with each pratfall and slip. Our captain of chaos on this cosmic trip. Raise your glass, let the rafters shake. Chris is the king of every mistake. Yeah, we love him more with each pratfall and slip. Our captain of chaos on this cosmic trip. Oh, Chris, our cosmic clown, trips in the street, still wears the crown. From stargates wide to socks that don't match, your questionable choices a perfect batch. Oh, Chris, our cosmic clown, trips in the street, still wears the crown. From stargates wide to socks that don't match, your questionable choices a perfect batch.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another World of Sasquatch. Today's episode is being recorded on 8/27/25. This is actually going to be a fairly, I would say, it's not necessarily a disappointing type of vibe, but it is more of a revelation type of vibe. Directly involving the forest people. But before we get going with any of these subjects, I now open this circle to true benevolence and no conflicting agendas as of this moment in time. So, Joanna?
We are all one, and when one is harmed, all are harmed. When one is helped, all are helped. Therefore, in the name of who I am, and I am one with all there is, that only the highest good be done. We pray for you, your friends, your family, your loved ones, to let healing energies in. Let them love you, and let them nourish you, and let them bring you to your highest good. We pray for ourselves, our friends, our family, our loved ones, to also let healing energies in, to let them love us and nourish us and bring us to our highest good. We ask for benevolence now with no conflicting agenda to come in, so that we may have this conversation in great understanding. And we ask for malevolent and mischievous type beings to be swept away, so that we may have this conversation in peace. And with that, and with great blessings that we always send your way, we say so be it.
And so be it. So what has taken place over the past couple of days that actually applies to the forest people? I was in a session with Bjorn. I won't go into extreme amount of detail unless he wants the session released, but Uh, it had to do with Valiant Thor holding back different both financial and energetic progress. Very much like the character of Soval on Enterprise holding Captain Archer's father back in the warp program. It is a similar dynamic. We've used that comparison before with Venusians and several other races that think maybe humanity isn't ready. The Vulcans were doing that in Star Trek. That was a very good comparison, even though they basically akin to Arcturian types. Still, the comparison is there. And we came to find out that some business concerns and some financial concerns on all ends it was because even a house that was being sold was actually because Valiant Thor put a crest on the door saying, "Oh, we weren't ready for whatever was coming down the pike," and or couldn't be connected to certain business practices because of certain changes happening to the private sector. And we've said in the past, Valiant Thor is directly connected to changes in the private sector that are converting it over to galactic concerns. And we've always been a friend to Valiant Thor, but Hajamal, you saw him in a couple previous World of Sasquatches, actually became more of an intermediary there. He is the teacher of the proper use of psionics. And at that moment in time, we decided to do an audit on all guides, past, present, and future. We decided to do this because it hadn't been done in a very, very long time. On oversouls, on everybody, on everything. And something very surprising came up afterwards. There were three major ones that just either stopped communicating, or they walked away, or had to be escorted away. Hajamal had to remove Valiant Thor because Valiant Thor got kind of mad, and Chrome disappeared, and Odin disappeared. These were more surprising things, but in an audit, if somebody is not having a conflicting agenda, even if it's a benevolent thing and it's just even a hair thin difference, they will fail an audit. It doesn't mean they're evil. It means that there was some conflict somewhere that they may have thought they were doing something out of benevolence, but it was enough of a difference to where it conflicted with us co-creating what we want to co-create. For Chrome, it was more like he was always a fan of saying you have to be humble and turn the other cheek, which in some instances, yes, that's true, be kind. But at the same time, you also have to stand up for yourself. With Odin, he was pushing that part of it too much to make it to where there's this view of being hyper-aggressive, hyper-warrior-like. That there was an instability, and Valiant Thor was holding back because he thought me and Bjorn were being more too warrior-like and too pushing the envelope too much in certain areas, and or putting certain information out that maybe conflicted more with certain yield concerns. That even though there was some benevolence there, it made it so that the plan that he had going was even though there is, again, some of the slow drip is fine, there are other ways to cut high. And we have butted heads with Valiant Thor on those issues multiple times. So we're a firm believer that there are, from lifting and World of Sasquatch, GIC, any of them, we are firm believers that there are multiple ways to cross this finish line, not just one calculated way that spans about over 100 years. So as you heard in our lecture from the 2025 Disclosure Now conference. So and people are thinking this might be a lifting episode. No, this is more World of Sasquatch, because Hajamal actually kind of stepped in. The forest people are the ones that remain. Lonulosians, Belodians, depending on their whatever they are doing. Obviously, there was no spirit felt. There was no conflicting agendas there. And we love Valiant Thor to death, but we did ram horns with him on occasion. And I got a rock thrown at the house here a moment ago from the forest people. So I would feel that is a cue to say, true benevolent Hajamal, can you please approach? So yes, that means you want to talk about this. Okay, can you please remove the weight from off this direction, please? If you please, good. Or at least show me what it is so I can do it. Okay. Okay. Hmm. Benevolent Hajamal, can you please approach? You were the one that set up this conversation, so I hear you. All right, right here. True benevolent. Moment. There's pressure. I know the force people cause the pressure here, but
Not in this area.
not here. So, true benevolent force people, can you please approach? If it's not Hajamal, can any of the other benevolent force people please approach?
Benevolent oversouls need to come in and help too.
So, benevolent oversouls, can you please come forward and participate in this particular channel? There we are. All right. Jamal, you were just around, so I literally saw you. I'm not sure what all the interference is, but
Why doesn't a benevolent oversoul come in for right
because
now, for right this second?
okay. All right. True benevolent oversoul of mind. Whichever name you wish to utilize at this particular time
That represents the totality of the library.
that represents the totality of the library, step forward and please be recognized and allow in a benevolent forest person to also speak. I'm not really caring which one because they've all been kind to us, as long as they're truly benevolent, have no conflicting agendas. So, Jamal, I hear you, but why are you blocked?
Because the oversoul's coming in first.
Okay. Oh, you'll go second. Okay, fine. And what do we call this Jamal? The proper use of what? The proper use of internal, what was the word you used? Internal resonance? Okay, resonance or, okay, all right. What is blocking you again, Tajamal? Hmm. Come again? Hmm. All right. All right. You can come in here in a moment. I'll use crystal first. Okay. True benevolent or soul library. Without the heaviness, please, if you don't mind.
With no conflicting agendas,
With no conflicting
which you
agenda.
shouldn't really have with your avatars.
No, there should be no conflicting agenda with an avatar.
So you may have to correct your Rubik's Cube.
Jamal. Jamal? What's the holdup? Hmm? What?
You need to show people the proper way to do an audit.
Hmm. Of course. All right. So What happens in a situation like this, where the oversoul is having, let's just say, yes, Isaac, a tit baby moment. Thank you. All right. You would have to do an audit on self, and like we did for, like me and Bjorn did, on the beings that were past, present, and future. But there is a more intricate way to run an audit on the self. And you have often heard me do revocations, words, and audits with all the dimensions, expressions, type of language. So what you do is I now run and request and order an audit on the benevolent oversoul and benevolent oversoul library and all of its avatars throughout the multiverse at this moment in time, within all dimensions, expressions, timelines, collapsing, invading timelines, within all multiversal, omniversal, and super omniversal situations, within all frequencies and energies, seen unseen, heard unheard, felt unfelt, and known and unknown, made across time and space for appropriate under the supervision of true benevolent source creator, true benevolent earth mother, and the true benevolent verses. It is forever so in all moments, all sessions, and expressions.
And I do exactly the same with mine.
Yes. Had them all. Perfect. Now I'll talk. Okay. All
And
right.
now the pain in my gut has gone away.
Mhm.
The pain in your gut gone away?
More chest, but yeah. Okay. Had them all. Perfect. All right. Okay, that's creepy. Yes, it was designed to be slightly abruptly creepy, but not really. Spitwads aside there, Isaac. This is actually more of a serious topic, other than the Animal House of fun holiday antics that took place before, which we are not opposed to. So, as far as people, what was witnessed during the session where I had to escort Valiant and throw away? When it turned into a conflicting agenda is when resources started to dry up as a result of what originally started as a benevolent endeavor. It turned slightly personal because of psionics. Remember what I said before about the proper use of psionics? Yes, bitches, grievances, and complaints do fall under psionic calls. And he heard multiple ones from both him and Bjorn regarding things that they don't remember from the in-between times, let's just call them, or in between spaces of the spaces in between spaces. And also looking to the oversoul for the guidance and direction. Beings that are also telepathically inclined, well, that's pretty much almost everybody to an extent, will, or some use equipment, but will often look at the oversoul library to see, in some cases, not all cases, they can't all read that benevolent Akashic, but the ones that do often look at that library for guidance and direction. And they will judge the let's just say, game plan based on what they are viewing. You would call this astrology, if I'm not mistaken. The chart that determines the star path by which then a certain set of conditions are met within your zodiac signs. This is the closest interpretation that I could know of to translate this for you. I do want to point something out, though. Showing that you have a predetermined path, there are two things going on here. There's a right thing and a wrong thing. A right thing is knowing that you come in with a mission. You come in with a plan. You come in with a certain set of parameters that you want to fulfill, a list, and you check it twice. No, well, pun intended. That was more of an Odin pun right there. Santa Claus. But anyway, the dwarves, all that. But anyway, back on track. The charts often are used as saying, oh, you came under the sign of Aquarius, you came under the sign of Leo, Scorpius, all the Scorpio, all of these things. At what point, though, does one not feel that, or one feel that they can't change their stars? Yes, you were born under a particular sign or a particular way for a reason. But often, if you look at both the Vedic and both the Americanized astrology, you will find differences. Whose is honored? Whose is honored? And also, with the alignment of the planets at a particular moment in time, this is how the galactics tell time. This is how you know at a particular alignment, at a particular place, that a particular event took place. Obviously, with Asgard in the light, because the pre-explosion. But with this, what I'm trying to get at is this. Say you have a chart drawn up by an astrologer. Not a bad thing to do based on your calendars. I say plural, based on that. But when does someone then determine the totality of their entire life by what was said of the future in those charts? It is actually one path of a multitude of timelines you enter onto, but based on the frequency. But that chart is based on one path, not always hardcore. You can switch this by changing the frequency slightly, and by enacting the allowance of choice, as your friend Arcturian friends said. When you do this, and yes, people always say surrender to the flow. What they're really meaning is the allowance of whatever it is that you're blocking to be unblocked, and you go with the flow that spirit is guiding you to the next synchronicity and or connection. We get this, but when you realize those charts, they're not meaningless, but they are telling a timeline by which at the time they are calculated. If you follow a certain path at a certain time, you will fulfill everything on that chart, 110%. But what if you see an outcome you do not care for? People say, well, that's the soul's path, that's destiny. Yes, within a certain set of parameters. The oversoul, yes, has come in to perform a particular task. And do people go through certain hardships in order to, and certain things, sorrow and all this, to build that character? Absolutely. But there is a certain number of ways certain things can play out. In a band-aid rip sort of way, where you point it all out at once, that is calculated within where the timelines are favoring, and some will favor, as he's seen, that a certain event is indeed the person's path. That is unalterable, that is a fixed event. This would be his accident. This was foretold in one of those charts, but it would have been foretold in most of them because it was mean averaged within a lot of the hairline timelines. Now, there are some things that pop up in those charts that are not the mean average, that then people grab onto, and then they're wondering why it did not happen. Either they're focusing on it too hard, like, where's my soulmate? Or they are focusing on a certain event like a business, or a certain event like a person, or a certain event like what was foretold in a chart, by which then is focused on a particular, how can I put this? Particular thing. But who said whatever methodology you were expecting to come up would actually be the thing to do it? They always say get rid of expectations, and yes, this is true. It's expectation. But also one could flip around like what you do and say you're expecting this because I said so, because this is a manifestation. There's two ways to read this. So with that said, the frequency by which you are in will then shove you into whatever that chart is showing in its different variances, and some certain events could be further back, some could be forward, just like your Sylvia Brown said in her book. Some of her timeline predictions would change and shift with timelines. Like in prophecy, she said some things were further ahead, and then some things were further back. Certain events still took place, but they shifted like a taco bar or a slide bar. This happens when you are getting on particular timelines and particular wavelengths. Sometimes those books and those writings and such will bleed into a different timeline by which then everybody still remembers them. Then you go to one where they don't. And that is not as common as you think. You even had that movie that came out called Yesterday, where nobody remembered the Beatles. This was one of those rare occurrences. Somebody jumped to a timeline by which then that was a completely separate world line. Now, back on target here, your palace and or your oversoul library. It can take the shape of a favorite expression. His looks like a wizard's tower. In this also can then determine the shape by which those timeline variances take place. When it narrows too much, then audit of the oversoul is definitely necessary, because there has to be the allowance of choice by shifting in those timelines, you see. The multiverse is very flexible. But if an oversoul is saying, this is the plan, stick to this. This makes it so that an avatar's life within those parameters, you would say there isn't very much wiggle room or margin for error, when in fact there is supposed to be an extreme margin for error. It's really not judged this way. It is more like, okay, you're shifting according to the frequency then by which then this mission can play out slightly differently. What the oversoul is doing in this case, where he here is having trouble not taking questions, for instance, this is actually a very how can I put this in an English type of way? It is more of a grievous coding error, you would say, because of the fact that there are two. How can I put this in English? There are two things coexisting within the same mind. You have an oversoul that wished to experience that of the secret space programs. You have an oversoul that also wished to experience within the same avatar a regular existence. How does a twain shall meet in this particular instance? It is rare that this is accomplished. In your vernacular, you would call it a Hail Mary, where of course the football is thrown from one end of the stadium to the other, one end zone to one end zone. Now, what happens in between end zones? All the players are hoping that ball drops early, or that they could tackle the other player. What happens if the thing works? That's a winning play. What happens if it doesn't? The other player gets tackled by every other player that was surrounding them. Now, you're seeing elements of both. You're seeing elements of a have and have, not a have and have not, but an is and is not. What would bring about ultimate choice within a world of dualism? Both an is and is not, a complete quantum state of being. As you go up or get up into the faster moving frequencies, what does this look like? What does this entail in the psionics? This would entail an is and is not. Because what happens to people that were in the SSP? Yes, they served. Yes, they may have even been in a different body, had a different brain, encoding and decoding over there, quantumly entangling over here, running parallel for 20 years. The one goes back, gets reintegrated, your personality slightly changes. As you know, when they took the soul out with the eye of the needle, let's just say, or needle of the eye, or whatever you want to call it. Now, what does this look like? This becomes an is and an is not. You did have those experiences, but you also did not at the same time. You also gained abilities and strengths over there, and even weaknesses. But over here, you also have you gain strengths and weaknesses, but of what kind? And at what point does the oversoul that at one point acknowledges the other version is also another expression within the Grand Library? But because of the unnatural tampering of the timelines by your military and by some of your Kabbalists and some of your time travel programs like your Montauk Chair and the like, the unnatural tampering of the Yggdrasil tree, you now have and is not. Atlantis fell into this snare as well. And so did Odin and the Orions and all of them, you know the snares. Now, how is this resolved? You must find a point of origin by which then one became an is not and one became an is. How is this resolved then? I know within the suppression bubble, it is too much information. There's at least 60 years worth of information there in a body that is only 45 years old. Some good things, some not so good things. It's about not a 50-50 smattering, but there is enough there to where if one part is accessed, the other part is accessed. In this particular way, this applies to all SSP people, by the way, that have had suppression bubbles in the head. It is like your sentry in the void. What happens? One is accessed. Here comes its dark mirror. Now, what happens if a mind wants to return to wholeness? What must take place? A quantifying moment or a codifying moment where balance is restored. And there is not necessarily a kumbaya, but it is an acceptance and a tolerance and a balance within a meditative state being. Problem. You are an is and is not. How does a brain quantify and codify this within the psionics? By connecting to everything and connecting to nothing. By reaching out on one level, per the oversoul wanting to restore balance, and not wanting the reaching out at all, and is not. This is a complete quantum state that it has no beginning or end, or an on or an off. When in fact, you are walking as an on and an off. At the same time, you're walking as a set of memories that took place in both darker and light times, and you are also walking here doing the same. So, as you walk beside yourself, what happens if these two worlds collide? Your buddy Michael Jackson ran into this same conundrum. He walked beside himself his whole life. What then did this look like when he left his human form? There were two of him. What happened when he returned to spirit? Complete oneness and singularity. But how is this accomplished while still in human form? People that were in the SSP and people that have access to certain past lives and information that have come in to utilize this information. How do you walk the earth as an is and is not, and still maintain a semblance of sanity and normalcy and normality? This is impossible. You are in a body here within this expression. What was done to those people was an unnatural abomination and violation of the laws of nature. This then can, by adhering to the laws of nature, here You are an I am. What they did was the opposite of an I am. How is this repaired? This is the question. What you do in this instance is this one thing that the Velodians were teaching him that they are asking me to relay in this conversation is that the soul remembers. But what if you run into an oversoul that still wishes to play the Hail Mary? I can do this. I am in control of this. The avatar can burn out and burn into the sun and then bring across this mighty energy that then fixes the conundrum and the violation of the laws of nature that is the is and is not. But within this life, this is something that is, I don't want to say completely impossible. I have to correct myself. Is it possible to accomplish? Of course. Is it possible on the earth within the multitude of timelines and within the frequency within by which you shift to that timeline? Yes. But remember, memory is frequency and frequency is memory. You access the memory. You are now traveling back to what was and is, but then also is not and is. You see the conundrum with the violation of the laws of nature. This may have even been in a timeline somewhere that was deleted, like you saw in your Loki show. But, or like what you referred to as the backstage timeline. But this didn't happen always. But when you gain a memory within the quantum reality that you are in and the frequency you're in, you are pulled outside of that and that timeline is deleted and you're put back, along with the memory wiping chemicals. This may not feel this or seem the same. It's especially with time traveling. This is why they chose children for this, because their brains are malleable. They can handle this, or so they thought. You do this as an adult. Insanity ensues because of the brain's inability to codify and quantify that of both an is and is not. The oversoul is in a constant quantum flux state. It is always an is and is not. But in this instance, yes, bringing back memories will fix the is and is not state. But what does that personality look like? What does that life look like? I'm not saying don't, because that is one way to fix it. But there's also another way to fix it. To basically tell the mind, the soul, heart, intuitive centers, the oversoul, that it is the soul that remembers. You take the good and you bring it in. You take also the ugly that you experience and deal with the shadows that must be. And I know this is difficult, especially if you don't remember the thing. As you do these things, little by little, you are bringing them into a form that's nowhere near as old as the original one was. Or I shouldn't say original, the other one was. Now, when this occurs, and you tap into this frequency, your cellular memory, again, goes into a state of is and is not because of the time travel methods. Because all states are quantum, everything, everywhere, all at once. Again, no human form in this body, in this state, in evolution, was ever meant to experience those things. There would come a time where that orbiting moon would then have to collide with the present moment. It was inevitable. As you hear about the whole Thanos character, I'm inevitable. This is the inevitability of violating these laws of nature. They did not care that they did this because they just wanted a particular task accomplished. Like in your Project Pegasus and in your project, your Montauk project and all of them. Now, you are seeing the repercussions of what then they both wrought, you see. Now, psionically, again, how is this brought to balance? When an audit is done, when an audit is done on the oversoul, when an audit is done on the different guides as what occurred. Now, was Valiant Thor holding certain things back because of this is and is not? That was part of his reason, but also stating that other things that were being tapped into were not needed in the current moment by which then society could progress. That is his opinion. We don't all share the opinions on what is necessary and what is not. So we saw there was healing that needed to be done. He was wanting to hold back both him and Bjorn and yourself to make sure a healing could be done in that area. But it was causing an instability, and he was not necessarily. He was understanding this, but he was seeing this. He was basically running you would say a test function, let's just say. And I did not necessarily agree with this. I saw it as a conflicting agenda, and I escorted him away for the time being until what was it? How the Arcturians put it. I sent him to his room. So, with that said, Odin, he was sent to his room. Certain things cannot be pushed. Creativity and genius cannot be forced. He was sent to his room. Chrome was wanting to bring about a calm state. No insult against him. But there are certain moments where you have to co-create a different path by which then you are standing up in the moment to not necessarily just as a warrior, but you're standing up for maybe a cause or an energy that you do not agree with. No insult to himself, but since it was a conflicting agenda, he too had to take a step back. So, I can actually go into questions if you like.
So again, what we're talking about is a moment of a conflicting agenda.
Yes, a moment.
So I guess, rather than saying, somebody's evil, they failed an audit or they can't be together
Yes.
right now, you have to come and recognize what the problems are, and you
Mhm.
could have a moment of a conflicting agenda and try to work through it. So this conversation is interesting in one dynamic because I guess, and so in my personal thoughts for my personal self, my talking to my own greater library or whatever, I actually have an expectation that there will be a separation in a sense of the two, that I kind of look at what happened in the backstage. It's me, but to me it's no different me than another me having a life somewhere else all at the same time.
Yes, you could view it this way. It's actually a safer route. Therefore, it can be and is not. But then from that library, therefore, you can then read that particular chapter of the book. It then must follow the physics that the Oversoul must adhere to the everything everywhere all at once, but within its timeline. It has to be sent to its room, you see. That phrase comes in handy, by the way, for unruly expressions and unruly Oversouls. They are sent to their room, even though they are the room. They are the book. They are all of this.
Right, but it needs to be brought up to your attention. Your Rubik's Cube is a little askew. We can
Yes.
get it together, and you know what? You are supposedly me, and I'm supposedly you. So I say you're going to do it, so you're going to do it.
And also,
Can it be that way?
per the void ruling, they have been declared the unsolvable Rubik's Cube, the void, the everything in between, the lifeblood of the Yggdrasil tree, but the effects of that mirror are the is and is not. The beings that live there thrive in an environment like that. Outside of time, outside of space and dimension, your perpetual twilight zone. Even though it is always gray, get it, twilight zone, but they would find that funny if they were hearing this. But anyway, a human mind at this stage in evolution was never meant to be able to completely quantify and codify that much information. And even though his brain has been adapted to doing this work, the conundrum remains. The SSP, personality, trait, expressional state of being, that is both sides of the is and is not. Again, can this safely fuse? Of course. Given the proper instruction, you better believe it can. But could it also kill someone? Yes. You better believe it can. And it has in the projects. When they decided to run the time travel experiments on people, they noticed they could burn people out within the blink of an eye. No pun intended. Because I was looking, yes. But they wanted information. They were too, as you would say, chicken shit to do it themselves. Just like he says in your Elder Scrolls Oblivion, Shivering Isles, people would cross the portal and become insane when they crossed it again back in the regular world. It was as they were giving disclosure there. They crossed the portal, came back, and their brain was oatmeal at that point. So, again, you have the correct method, the safer methodology, by which then you are looking at it across a chasm, and you access what you need to access when you need to access it. Now, is a fusion inevitable? Does the mind always want to return to that wholeness? Of course. But remember the whole, again, your Star Trek Discovery temporal aphasia with the Giorgio character, where going into the seizures coming from a different universe, different time frame. This is what you're up against. The frequency trying to return to a state of being to rectify a problem. However, logic cannot solve this one because you return to the problem to rectify it. It is no different than clipping the red cord inside of a bomb ready to explode, a thermonuclear device that is made up of a nuclear explosion that is always constantly going off and that may never go off. Basically, the Schrodinger's cat that is both being seen as either dead or alive, or seen as neither dead nor alive. But when you view the particle, does that particle not particle not turn into a wave form and back and forth? This is what you're dealing with, the physics of the multiverse. This is why this was a violation of the laws of nature, because it was forced fusion of both the is and is not. And when you run into this, the only way through it is to get through the fire of whatever the Oversoul is trying to accomplish, but at the same time, no pun intended, the Oversoul must know to run this kind of Hail Mary, it must be done more delicately.
Right. Or choose that maybe it's going to care enough about its avatars to not put them through this, and it doesn't have to be done.
Mm-hmm.
But that's kind of how I look at it. It's like, come on, stop being crazy about this stuff.
Mm-hmm. Very much like sometimes the Oversouls view certain avatars as like a gangrenous limb, too.
Right?
So
What does that?
it is a respect the Oversoul feels to the totality of the library, the experience of the infection by which then you can create the antibodies. I consider that what you would call a load of horseshit, but this requires an audit, by the way. What is on audit in this respect? Antibodies! You are actually curing the disease or virus by making the Oversoul form the antibodies by which it was trying so desperately hard to create on its own. Sometimes, I'm not saying you need a vaccine or anything like that, but I will not compare it to your vaccines, but in this respect, an audit is essentially the antibody or the vaccine that is introduced to create better antibodies. But do you think certain Oversouls want help from the likes of myself and others? No. Because let's get through this. Let's push through this. Let's throw this football and see where it lands. And if it falls to the ground, that particular gangrenous limb may not survive. But in the respect that the Hail Mary works. And it actually is in a state of working and non-working, and is not, as I said before, it can be every state at once, where the player that throws a football suddenly has a heart attack and dies. There could be another scenario where the players all die, and then the football is thrown and it hits nobody. It's so many ways that could play out. But the one the Oversoul is shooting for, that is the ultimate in the timeline resurgence and mean average, is complete and utter integration and peace. This is what is trying to be learned. But doing an audit is basically giving the library a swift kick in the gonads or something else, and basically saying, why don't we look at another chapter of the book? Look a little bit ahead. If you're on chapter 6, go to chapter 7. If you're on chapter 1, go to 2. But in this instance, if you're in a binary state, not to throw puns here for a minute, if you are in a binary state of ones and zeros, isn't there an option, like say if chapter 1 is a 1 and 0, like you have the prologue and you have chapter 1, and you're constantly switching between prologue and 1, and that's ones and zeros, binary code? Why not switch to 2? And I'm not saying become non-binary. That's not the joke I'm going with. I'm just saying go to 2 and continue on performing the Hail Mary. You're still in the pre-planning stage with the prologue and reading chapter 1. It's like, okay, we're going to the beginning where he's holding the football and ready to throw it. But get past it and throw the damn thing. Why don't you?
Right, exactly. And, again, like you're saying, but I'd say it a little different way. Instead of killing off your main character, why don't you just, skip over a little bit and let him have a nice full long life and everything, and you may learn a hell of a lot more by doing that than by just killing him off in the prelog.
Yes, that and also like a save character on a video game, where you can just go back to the last save. This is what this damn Oversoul is doing, going back to the last frickin' save file. Oh, that didn't work. Boop, didn't work. Boop, that didn't work. Throw the damn football because
Apparently he's retarded.
yes, and so retarded held back as the true meaning of the word, because being pulled back to the state of is and is not. Let's plan this out. Very much like the artificial intelligence did in a movie he saw where it was a no-win scenario with a nuclear war. And the AI was being taught sometimes there is a no-win scenario kind of thing. With this, the current way that it is going, it is a no-win scenario. It's the Kobayashi Maru of scenarios. And also the Oversoul, if it's wanting to know what a no-win scenario looks like in every single aspect of every single thought and moment to aspect as you jump the timelines, that Oversoul, my friends, is mentally retarded.
Exactly.
So why would you want to learn that, by which then you could just review your own records because you've already done it?
Exactly.
So like he says, how much pain and suffering and all that do you have to learn from? Yes, the multiverse, everything everywhere at once, and also infinite diversity and infinite combinations. And it doesn't mean that you have 10,000 timelines where you're just wearing a different shirt that day, because that's getting retarded at that point, even though that does happen, by the way. There's also another one where you two are sitting here in Hawaiian shirts, muumuus, everything. The whole bit, if you just looked at this whole thing, it gets ridiculous after a while. Where you're wearing giant sunglasses, the whole bit. It gets stupid. And the really reason I can see this is because the Oversoul is showing it to me.
Right.
Because
our Oversouls are really stupid.
Yes.
We came from stupid ones, people.
Yes.
Stupid
Yes.
ones.
Yes.
I'll freely admit it.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And this goes back. Yes, this doesn't even always completely apply to the Orion Codex information that you were talking about. Yes, that was your own past where you went through that whole thing. And his too. But in this respect, back to this particular moment in time, even though everything's in the moment, I know the joke, Isaac, everything's relative, I understand, I get the joke. But is it really that important to cancel out the good or the bad or the good that you're getting. No, you want the good with this, but like I said, with the whole centering the void thing, where you're bringing the good and the power from, you have to understand everything's quantum. Everything in existence is in and is not state. Like Schrodinger's cat. When you view it, when you finally codify that, when you balance that good, that Schrodinger's cat has now been determined whether it is dead or alive in this reality. So there is a way to avoid the whole century and the void thing, but by keeping that, how can I put this? Not necessarily just grounded, but grounded too, but remembering what is needed in that moment. Does it really frickin' matter how many different variations of you are wearing a different shirt? No. Does it matter to the oversoul and the library for that grand record? Yes. In this case, the soul remembers.
Well, thank you. So, again, there are times when we have to sit back and take ourselves to task. And sometimes these moments happen, just to let you know. And when it gets to a ridiculous amount where there ain't enough blaming that it's somebody else, when it's actually you, yourself, and yourself that needs to actually, do some serious soul searching in general to get off this ridiculous crazy train, as Ozzy would put it, right? That sometimes that people are on. And it really can get to some ridiculous levels.
Very much so. If you saw the inside of the wizard's tower, you would see all form and manner of experiment running that you would have no comprehension as to what the hell it is. A wizard's lair in brew it is. Along with a warrior, a monk, and a variety of different, how can I put this kindly, experimental versions of self. Very much one doing experiments on themselves like an alchemist would. You try it out on yourself first and see what happens. This is what his oversoul is doing currently in that palace space. It's very much like when you tried, when he tried that supplement that time, or a couple of those supplements to see what they would do. Who do you think and got him to do this? To access the is and is not at the same time, to try to quantify and codify to see if an avatar could codify and quantify a state of an is and is not within the human avatar experience. That you're dealing with an experimenter and a connoisseur of the everything, meaning I must know, therefore I am. In this instance, what retard up there doesn't understand is you must be an I am in order to know everything. But the soul remembers.
Right. And again, you need to get your act together. Because it's interesting, because Ozzy did come in, and you know what he said? He said his brain was a mess. He said there's file cabinets everywhere full of crap that's not needed or whatever. To the point where it's full up so much you can't handle one more question.
Yes, because he said it was full of shit. That's how he put it. Because of the fact, I agree 100% and 10%, because of the fact that when you start remembering every variation of something that could possibly either go wrong or go right, what does your subconscious look like? And also, if you have a suppression bubble from the SSP, what does that look like? A big whirling vortex of file cabinets, as he said. In this respect, I must agree with him that the big whirling wormhole is not needed. Yes, to do channelings, absolutely, to gain information that is needed for whatever it is you are searching for. Yes. Can the brain hold all of this? No. Can this be brought in to like how, say, a mathematical genius would be able, or like your Ben Affleck character in your accountant, where he could perceive all of these things? Yeah, of course, that's a natural ability. What's unnatural is keeping all of those tools that you have gained within those timelines, within one set of file cabinets, within the human mind. There is a tipping point because you are in, again, a body that is. You're in an experience that is. Are there states of is not around you? Spirit included, oversoul included. Yes. Are there walls here for a reason? Yes. Are there barriers there that have doors on them saying high voltage and amps? Yes. Are there doors with nothing but pipes behind them that are the inner workings of a soul's corridor? Yes. Are there doors to other existences that have been, and are, and will be? Yes. Will this be experienced as a soul because the soul remembers? Yes. Will it all be needed here? No.
And that's very important to remember, because the only alternative is that Chris wakes up tomorrow and he's got a big old cone head because his brain matter size has doubled, and then I'd probably have to kill him. So,
this has actually, believe it or not, this was one of those weird cone head variations. The Anunnaki, as they're called, or you call them, had the ability to visualize some of the is and is not. Odin did these things as well, where he was attempting to prevent the Ragnarok, for instance, but yet with his gigantic head, he could not be influenced because it was done differently in a certain energetics. Yes, were they masters in genetics like your Poseidon / Enki and Loki / Enlil? Yes, were they brilliant in this? Yes, but it's like that line from Jurassic Park. They were basically trying to quantify or ask the question if they could, but did they ever ask if they should? That's the question. This then entails, should certain things be held? Should certain things be accessed? Should certain things be created? Within reason, within the moments they are meant to, and nothing more. Because then this advances the soul along. This advances that path along. But when you have the master alchemist up there that is testing to see, of course, that, that old conundrum where what came first, the chicken or the egg, nature and or the universe and or the multiverse? That old argument. Where did nature come before space, or space become before nature, and who did what to whom, and who gives a flying fuck? The oversouls started this shit, where they go, okay, this is how we do it. When they went from celestial before Creator Council, when they were in this state, they are in this chicken and egg type scenario, and saying, we created nature because, and other races went, no, nature created you because, and benevolent source creator created nature, and they created you at the same time. Whatever. Depending on who you are speaking to, that answer is different. That's that whole meaning of life question. And with this, the oversoul will sit there and go, okay, can I create a scenario by which an is and is not can walk in human form? The answer is no. In this question, what came first, the chicken and the egg? Who gives a shit?
Thank you.
This is like that scene in Everything Everywhere All at Once where they were where the girl was trying to put everything on the donut, whether she was going to recreate herself or uncreate herself, do the fucking thing and get it over with. This is what the scenario by which then Michelle Yeoh's character thought she could alter that particular timeline, and she reset the multiverse, but then it went back to ultimate choice again. By which then, once you reset, all the other havoc was gone, and things still played out for the timeline frequency by which you're in. This is where we're at with this. The ultimate alchemist, what can we create today? Let me think. How about not creating insanity? How about not creating a mess out of let's see if you both connect to everything and to nothing. Like what he was picking up on, I'm not connecting to this, but yet I'm connecting to this. Is and is not. Not cool, not cool, retarded.
That and just some lack of self-respect, because simply when you're playing these games with yourself, then what you also set up is the ones on the bandwagon who want to jump on and make it even worse for the person. So it's just like such a frustrating thing, because you also have the lack of self-respect to look at your own avatar, to see they're having enough times with just your dabbling around, then you're okay with all the shit that jumps on to try and make it worse. It's the worst case of just self-loathing and self-respect that I can actually even ponder, which is why I said in the beginning, I'm circling around to it, that any friend who thinks they're a friend of this particular's avatar's oversoul needs to go take a bat to him right now to make him feel really hard how ridiculous this is actually being, or maybe a timeout in the void. But something
That has
going
actually
on.
occurred too, because there was a time where this chicken and the egg question got ridiculous. And the answer to this is either I don't give a flying fuck, or within this, that both the chicken and the egg were created simultaneously at the exact same moment in time. One did not precede the other because, therefore, it burst into the multiverse and they all happened at the same time. One reality, one way, reality, another. And multiple other ones in between. The Void would argue that everything happened at once. One, you could call it the Big Bang, but that's not necessarily the case. But one could view it either in I don't give a flying fuck, or it's the everything everywhere all at once answer. Either way, stop it. This is the oversouls in multiple people do this. And the only thing that has ever been accomplished by bringing in the is and is not, while attempting to correct the mishaps of the projects in multiple timelines, is insanity. Can this be corrected? As I've said, absolutely it can be corrected. It has to be parceled and partitioned off appropriately, and then the memories can come back little by little by little, and all is right with the world. Sometimes, most of the time, you have seen people with their bolts not tightened correctly. In fact, that's 99% of the time. It has rarely, if ever, hardly been accomplished. It's been accomplished with children, but they still have had problems.
Right.
So if these oversouls are attempting to correct this problem, more power to you, but at the same time, find a different damn method for it. Other than the chicken and the egg argument, because this is only the further it's going to go. It's just like trying to tell non-sentient AI what the square root of pi is. It can't do it, like what was shown on the computer on Star Trek when the entity got control. Jack the Ripper entity got control of the computer. That's the only way they occupied the computer to screw up the entity. And yet, going into it is and is not. A sentient one will say that it is this big burst of both numbers and energies, just like your Solarin did, as Arvin. Now, beyond the answer Arvin/Solarin, or Solarin now gave, switching frequencies, the only way he could codify and is not, is he changes his name. So, with that said, this is where I'm at with the subject.
Well, again, there is the source of all things that even the oversouls came from. And I would like to see a little piece of that float over to his oversoul and say, listen, bud, you're going to respect that avatar. They're asking for respect. You need to respect yourself. You need to stop this shit. That's what I'm asking. So, because it really is a bunch of it. And again, we did already say before that really the only ones that are part of these projects that really gain most of their memories, it really is their path to
Yes,
spread the story.
it's their path to get the crimes that were committed out, to make sure that it stops once and for all.
Right.
This is the reason why. This was their path. This is why, even though the bolts weren't screwed on completely tight, They were tight enough
Right,
to have some semblance of sanity.
right.
But again, those were the rarer cases. When 99% of them were in the brain scrambled is and is not stage, that they eventually somebody had to put a bullet in their head in order to take them out of their misery.
Right,
So
because they are. That's the whole point. You know, I hate to say it, but I saw this in some people just in misery, constantly circling the toilet, constantly not being able to be in a good mood, constantly whatever. That's all that energy from back there. They just kind of are circling and circling and circling
it's
within
good
it.
to remember what came before. You don't want to be unburdened by what has been,
Right.
but there is a limit.
There is a limit. And if you never can get out of that, if you really are stuck and you cannot get yourself out of it, that should be a red flag. That should really be a red flag for you, because I really don't think it benefits some negatives in some crazy ass oversouls, but it certainly doesn't benefit, nor is it needed to have this unending loop of experience. As we said before, how much of this do you have to go through over and over and over again for your numbnut of an oversoul to get the experience, So it's ridiculous.
Yes. With this oversoul, there should be, you know how they have hunting trophies that you taxidermy and they're stuffed and you put them on the wall? There should be a literal one with a chicken sticking out of an egg on the wall that is basically eating its own ass. So this is essentially what this entails. Like the snake, the Ouroboros, in this case, it's the chicken and the egg being born and reborn over and over again. And it's essentially a weird mix between a chick and a full-grown chicken and the egg. And this should be a trophy either sitting on a shelf or a stuffed taxidermy thing on the wall that looks grotesque, because that's exactly what this is.
Or in my envisioning is that you ask them to sit up on stage, they think they're giving a trophy, and I come right up behind them and put a dunce cap on their head.
There is no participation trophy in this particular thing. You either win this one,
Right.
or you lose. There is no particular participation trophy, because that's an is and is not state. Like in competition, you don't get participation trophies. You either screw up or you win. And this is why they're trying to cancel this out, like with your also theys and thems and stuff like that, because of the fact it is an in-between state. Now, I'm not dumping on any non-binaries or anything like that, because there is dimensional stuff in there that is proper sometimes for this dimensional state that needs to be in a solid state, but also in a non-binary, as well as not just chicken and egg, but there's also some others. There's the controlled batch, and then there's the natural batch of them. You're dealing with 3 or 4 different kinds of things here. So there are some natural things that are in there as well that are needed. But beyond that, why does the oversoul must constantly go back to this question? Because they all bicker amongst themselves as to who has the bigger wiener. So let's try to prove this to this other oversoul in the avatar form. Once and for all, let's try this again. Oh, we're doing this old trick again. Dunce cap. They always circle back around to this, and they lose every damn time. Because you didn't get that one. They will never get it. Because it's all the realities at the same time, and it's the unresolvable Rubik's Cube. That is the void. Only the void beings can live there, and also the beings they've imprisoned in their tower, and also the races are transitioning, but they protect them always from the state of the is and is not. If you went to the void, you would become the unsolvable Rubik's Cube, and or that mirror Harry Potter sat in front of, always expecting to see the future, and Dumbledore tells him many men sat in front of this mirror expecting to basically see the future, and it was only a reflection of the possibilities and the ises and is nots. That's all it is. Mm-hmm. And the void burst into the multiverse because it was every choice everywhere all at once. That was the only way benevolent source creator could create choice. Let there be light? Yes, in multiple reality. In the void, it is gray. And it's the lifeblood of the Yggdrasil tree because it created everything. This is where we're at right now.
Well, thank you. I think we're going to have to entitle this Hegemal the counselor. So for this episode, that would be an appropriate title.
The proper use of psionics, yes, but I also am abreast of certain particular physics that I also teach from time to time, and I don't get paid near enough.
Thank you.
So,
I agree with that statement.
yes, some teachers, like you see, don't get near paid enough. Even in our case, where I work with the Tartarian world unity, this is why I brought up Harry Potter, and also the Lanulosians, I also help them seek out people from time to time. Very much like you saw that Merlin myth that he saw that one time where he was looking for children to teach. That's back when he actually was not retarded or power hungry, because he left that frequency and decided to wander the earth, and then he went a little is not retarded himself. But we won't bring him up. Say his name and he shall appear. So no. Or he who shall not be named, Voldemort. But in this, the Tartarian World Unity, Lanulos work quite closely together, and I have helped Indrid Cold do seeking from time to time with him, looking for those potentialities. Is this a thing or is it not? It is. This is the only time they're even sought out at all. Sometimes it's a bloodline thing where they've either manicured or talked to that bloodline or those particular people in the ancient past, and their souls are here now. And just like with Woodrow Derenberger and his daughter Tania, and also yourselves, Bjorn, Susan, yourselves included in this. So where even Isaac and Thorsten, I taught them in the same school. They are wizards themselves, even though that's a bit of a scary thought, especially Isaac. But I taught them. This is why they were doing. He was doing the spitwad thing, because he did that like Animal House in my class, and I just ignored him. So I wanted funny, but I also wanted learning. And so in this case, it was more of an is and is not, but mostly is not.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, my only last word is, from my oversoul to this one's oversoul, if you give yourself cut into the void, I'm not coming to get you out. So I suggest you get your act together. Or we will not be seeing each other for millions of years.
You know what the void does to, well, you would see in Marvel where they showed variants where they just brought him into the TVA and they cut the timeline. No, that's cruel. That's your time core shit. You don't do shit like that. What I'm saying is the void and spirit will put out bounties on certain avatars. This is what was also being depicted when they do shit like this. And when it is a disruption to the walls of the multiverse, and there comes the NDTF with a lot of its, let's just say, hot ladies going arresting somewhere like there are the expanded version of the Charlie's Angels. Now, as cool as you think that is, it is both an is and is not. Because if they're coming for you, you've done fucked up. Just saying. Just putting that out there. It might be cool second until they take a big taser out and so just saying. Now this do you have any other questions for myself?
No. I just hope this one maybe listened. I know, guys, I'm kind of playing, but believe me, I pushed for this conversation, as Hegemal knows, because there were problems going on here, and there were conflicts, and there were things that did not make sense. So it was an important conversation that we had to have today, even though we did it in some levity.
I will add some stabilization to here, but I will also add in a bit of where's the torque wrench to tighten the bolts just a bit to gain some mental stability in this particular venture, so that the subconscious, the barrier that is surrounding the subconscious, the healing energies, can go back to doing their job. The bubble is not like how water is for a knee, like his knee when he had to puncture his knee to get the water out of it. It's not quite like that. The water was not healing him at that point. It was just more of a festering wound. Let's just say the water ends up being a festering wound, making it worse sometimes. And no amount of shots or no amount of heat or cooling pads or ice was going to fix it. He had to puncture it. In this case, he's thinking it's a puncturing that needs to take place for the same reason. Let it puncture off. No, no. That barrier is a shield for the mind. The mind is protecting itself from over sensory overload. That's what the subconscious does. People think that it's retarded for doing this. The brain was made this way for a reason. So it encountered certain things like this. It could fart some of it out every now and again if it's needed. But also, if there's a certain trauma, get rid of it. If there's certain good, can the good be accessed without can the sensory be accessed without the void? Yes, it can. But there is some healing and finessing that needs to take place first. Like getting rid of that weird vortex of file cabinets that Ozzy was talking about. Where they're on the ceiling, and it's like that painting with all the stairs that go to like different places, or the proverbial Winchester house of the mind. No. So tighten bolts, get rid of some of these file cabinets that some of them obviously belong in the library with the big robed magician that is actually standing in the corner right now trying to make himself, let's say, scarce because he is running some weird experiment, again, with some weird electrical orb-like thing that is aimed at multiple avatars at once. And I'm asking that he actually not just cease this experiment, but quit asking the goddamn question, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Because this gets retarded after a while. So, if you're asking yourself this question, I would highly, highly suggest that not go on any form of Q&A, does not go on any form of channeling beyond what I am saying now. It is everything, everywhere, all at once, or it is and is not state that will literally implode the human mind. So, the weight of a million suns laid upon that of the mind, or there is a void of non-creation and stagnation. Sometimes you would say that is more of an intersex or a non-binary, but this is how those things got started. Mutation over here from Enki and Lil. This came from dimensional, and voila, you have all of this within your reality. Again, some good, some not. But again, no chicken and egg. Okay, I am good.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate the conversation.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And Anhalam, always. By the way, Anhalam fixes some of this conundrum, by the way. Goodbye. All right. Yes, it was actually quite it's actually quite interesting because people that are in those programs, that he is correct. They are literally in a perpetual state of is and is not. Was I there or was I not? It's actually both. So it orbits you like a moon. Can some of these things be rectified? Yes, because those are the people meant to walk that path by which that information has been put out. And are we kind of in that state where we put out information if it is needed for a particular task at a particular time? Yes. But I see all these things all over the place. It's like the proverbial Rain Man syndrome, where I'm seeing all the signs, symbols, and everything. And I remember the information. When you are tapping into a particular frequency is memory, memory is frequency. So when you are tapping into that, you are then remembering every other subsequent is and is not associated with whenever that frequency was accessed. And that is sometimes. But if you're doing that, what are you tuned to the synapses of your mind, of your brain? Not necessarily anything good, but you are, if you're noticing all this and you have that autistic, like, Rain Man ability and you're bringing all those numbers in, like he's like, doing that kind of thing, that's great. But you have to reground afterwards. If you're bringing in information like the proverbial mathematician John Nash, where they thought he was crazy, but he was actually channeling aliens, telling him how to do formulas and such, that could be another subject for another time. But he went insane because of that. But he was also told he was insane by his family. I won't go there, but I wasn't pleased with the outcome. He was targeted quite heavily and died in a car accident, but won't come through, by the way. I've tried. But with this is the outcome, usually. So, I don't know if you have anything else to add, Joanna?
Nope, we'll see what happens.
Mhm.
See if the numbnut listens.
And do not ask the chicken and the egg question on any of our Q&As or anything we do in the future. I will refer you back to this episode of The World of Sasquatch. I now close this circle within true benevolence and no conflicting agendas of this moment in time. So, thank you, everybody. Bye-bye now.
Gather round, sparks, the fire's alive. Time to toast the moments we barely survived. From trust in the fox to guard the hen, to saying sure I'll try that again. Oh, questionable choices, raise 'em high. We tripped, we flipped, but we still touched the sky. Every stumble, every fall became part of the plan. Now we're roasting our mistakes, marshmallow in hand. One soul rode a comet with no map in sight. Another picked eternal darkness as their night. Some thought free candy was a reasonable sign, and one invested everything in turnip wine. Oh, questionable choices, raise 'em high. We laughed, we crashed, but we still learned to fly. Every misstep, every oops became part of the jam. Now we're singing through the chaos, cosmic program. So here's to the bruises, the wrong turns we take, to trust in that snake who swore he was awake. The joke isn't cruel, it's the laughter we weave. Even folly can teach what the wise still